Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's M-Level webinar series. We have a great agenda for today. I want to not spend too much time chatting, but I do want to welcome in Bob Mosher, who's the CEO of Apply Synergies. If you're a fan of Bob's, and most of us are who are in the learning profession, we're excited today to talk about the 70-20 can. Are we missing a huge opportunity? But if you follow Bob and you pay attention to his LinkedIn feed or his Twitter feed, you get a great opportunity to see the blog posts and content that he possesses. So we were really thrilled when he volunteered to give us his time. And so I'm going to spend less time talking and welcome in Bob. Thank you for being here. And for everybody getting settled in, of course, we're recording this, and this will be available post-completion. We'll send out a recording of this. But Bob, thanks so much. While folks get settled into their seats, let's go ahead and get started, because I know you have a lot of content to cover, and they're all excited to hear it.
Thank you so much. Team, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great.
Perfect. Thanks. Thank you, Laura. Well, welcome, everyone. Richard, Sherry, you're all doing the chat great. So you've all found it. By all means, friends, please, over on the left, use the chat throughout. Would love to hear the back channel. We'll do all I can to get to things there. I also have my wonderful friends at M-Level who are going to watch that for me. If we cannot get to questions and everything today, as is always, if you heard me speak before, I have a fairly jam-packed deck to cover and don't mean to exclude. So please, by all means, we will do all we can to get to the information as well. Bob Mosher here, CEO, Chief Learning Evangelist for Apply Synergies. Friends, I am so honored to spend this hour with you. I cannot wait. Well, as you know me enough, as I was just introduced, this is a topic I can't talk enough about. I think we are at a crossroads in our industry. I think we live at probably one of the most exciting times to be in learning and development, because although 70-20-10 and things like it have been around for years, some would argue as far back as the 90s or 80s, depending on how you follow the discipline or not, it was a tough one. There's so many factors in our industry that made this concept difficult to do. Well, you guys, here's the exciting thing. We are well past the tipping point. This 70-20-10 is not math anymore. It's not a concept. It is a reality. So excited today in a short hour to get us started about this discussion. But if you see on my next slide here, we would love to continue that dialogue with you. My dear colleague, Dr. Conrad Gottfredson, who's my partner in business, is also a huge part of what we'll talk about today. He and I host an online free community on this topic called the Performance Support Community. You see a little thumbnail of it there on the right. Over 4,200 members. You can read on the slide, 27 plus countries. Free blogs, forums, webinars. If you want to hear more about this, hear this same presentation, if you just want to continue the dialogue, if you write Chris at 5momentsofneed.com there, you see it down in the red, we will be happy to get you online and get you a part of the community, and we will continue this dialogue. So please, although I know we're not all in audio, I would love to hear your reactions. I'm going to quiz you a couple times throughout the hour. Would love to, look at you. Thanks, level folks. We would love to hear how you think it's going. And in fact, I'm going to ask you a question to start before we go here. You guys, can I ask you in chat, what's your thoughts on 70-20-10? As a learning professional, what is your, and I know I'm going to rapid fire here, bias in a second, but when you hear 70-20-10, what do you think of? What is your excitement level, your anxiousness, would you mind giving me in chat what's your barometer on that infamous math formula? I'm staring over here at the chat. I'm sure you're typing away out there. Curious, Amy, love that. Anybody else out there have an opinion about what makes them feel interested in learning more? Laura, Sherry, love that. Yeah, it's crazy numbers, high numbers that only. Look at you, Carol. Yeah, I mean, you guys. Here's the thing. Makes good sense. The key, I bet I'm with you. I think it's a good thing because in life you're writing 70 training, 20 material, this kind of stuff. 10 out in. Yeah, I mean, you guys, it's been around a while, and let me just share my side of this. I never had an issue with the math, and if you don't know the math, by the way, this is from the Center for Creative Leadership, done years ago. Here's the thing, and we've all lived this, right? The belief is that 70% of how we learn is done on our own, informally, and by the way, the operative word there is on our own. That we experiment, we try, we succeed and fail. 20% of the time, when that doesn't go well, we find others. Right, that's the 20. We seek out social, colleagues, peers. That's often a misunderstanding of the 70 and the 20. Some people say, well, the 70 is when I learn on my own and and I might use a mentor, I might use a coach. Nope, friends, that's the 20. The 20 is a social element, and then, of course, the 10 is the belief that we get these rare moments like today where we get to learn something, right? And guys, I've never argued with the math. As an L&D professional, as an ID by trade, and a lot of you concurred in the chat over here. We think it makes sense. But guys, here's my problem. Here's my concern. I don't know how to do it. By that I mean, I don't know how to design. I'm an ID by trade. It's my background and my pedigree. I do not know, or did not know, sorry, how do you design for that? I was trained in the 10, friends. I don't know about you, but my ISD background, if you know that acronym, is in the 10. I made classes, e-learning, virtual instruction, webinars like you're taking today. This was my life, right? But so when it came to the 70 and the 20, I was like, oh my gosh, really? I mean, but the good news, friends, is that today, the world we live in today, and with the technologies we have, the methodologies that are emerging, we can truly design for 70, 20, 10 in a way that we never could before. At least I know I was not schooled in, and that's what we're going to introduce you to today. But let's start out with the agenda here. Guys, it fundamentally starts with this. Those of you out there that are interested, that know the math, right? And I love Hal. I love your comment. Great on paper, but hard to implement. I'm going to run with that, my friend. Is that, here's the thing, friends. Fundamentally, we have to understand the difference between learning and training and the mindset shift that involves. It sounds like semantics, but it really isn't. Any organization I've seen do 70, 20, 10 successfully has learned the difference between those two words, and even more so, has reoriented around learning and support. And here's the kind of scary thing in our world, migrated away from training. I don't even use the words anymore, candidly, in my work. I am no longer a trainer. I don't design training. Only because, friends, not because I don't agree with those things or think they're wonderful, but there's a legacy that comes with that, isn't there? Right? We're going to talk more about that. So, you guys, it's 70, 20, 10 then. It's all about the workflow. Raul, you're talking about 70% of learning happens on the job. That is the workflow. If you're going to shift to 70, 20, 10 design, you have to first and foremost shift your attention to the workflow, and it all starts there. We'll talk about that in a moment. This other thing, blended. If you've heard about blended learning, 70, 20, 10 is a blended model. It's a blended model of those. Those aren't isolated silos. It is a blended model for your learner across 70, the 20, and the 10. If you're going to do that, you have to understand and be able to design for what's called criticality. It's all about, to design a blended 70, 20, 10, you have to pivot on criticality, not content, not modality, like 20% e-learning, 10% class. That's pivoting on modality. Nope, we're going to pivot on the workflow first and criticality second, and then lastly, it is all about what you make accessible when. So friends, we're going to go through all of those areas today. Let's start with this. So let me quiz you on something. Look at this slide, would you? And in the chat, give me some numbers. Look at this list. I want you to select the top 2 most effective approaches you have used to learn, remember, and apply the greatest performance challenges of your life. I'm asking you, everyone out there in webinar land. In the chat, would you give me 2 numbers? Give me your 2 top favorites that you've learned. What 2 numbers that have helped you the most? I got a 4 and a 5, a 4 and an 8, 4 and an 8, 3 and a 6. 4 seems to be winning out big time. Lots of 4s, 3s and 6s. 6 seems to be coming on pretty strong. Got an 8 in there, 3 and a 4, 4 and 7, 4 and 8. Look at 4 is really winning. And you got 6s in there pretty strong. Jeremiah, thank you so much. You guys, Raquel, Jan, brilliant. 4 and 3. Guys, I would agree. And if you know instructional technology, instructional psychology, nothing beats these. And by the way, I have done this quiz across the globe. I'm going to the Netherlands next week. I'm speaking in Germany. I'm speaking in Amsterdam. I will ask the same quiz there. I've been asking this quiz for probably 5 years now. And look on the slide, friends. I've been keeping track. And by the way, I'm going to keep track of your feed here when we're done. And I'm going to do the math. These 4 things win. And just it doesn't. I know in this group it seems that 4 has been fairly dominant. So you guys, you've kind of moved 4 ahead of 6. But historically, 1, 2, and then tied for third are these red things. And some of you have voted for others. But if we rang up the vote, and again, guys, I've done this thousands of times. Look at you, trial and error in the workflow. So you're kind of combining. Yeah, you got 6, right? Flow. Here's the problem, friends. You see this list? See the question marks? These almost never win. Never. Now, I'm not. Some of you have voted for them, so I'm not saying they don't get voted for, you guys. But I'm talking about when I've asked this to thousands of people, and by the way, all those people have been us, L&D folks. So in other words, how do we answer this question, right? And by the way, if you want to kind of get into 70-20-10, take this slide to your learners. Take this to those who you serve and make them vote. I dare you. Because, guys, I hope you kind of know where I'm going with this. And by the way, this is also all about my journey too, not just you folks, right? If these win, if these are, look at the question, select the 2 most effective approaches you have used to learn, remember, look at, and apply. And by the way, one person once told me if you had taken the word apply off of there, I would have voted for 5. Think about that answer, friend. Think about that answer. If you had taken apply off of there, I would have voted for 5. But you guys, here's the thing. Let's have a candid conversation with ourselves on this thing, right? What is our end goal? Is it learn and remember, or is it apply? Right? Guys, in the end, if those who we serve cannot apply, if they cannot perform, all we do is moot. How's that? And I hope no one takes offense to that, because I'm not knocking anything that we do. But my point is, if in the end, those who we serve cannot ultimately apply and perform, it does not matter what they learned and remembered. It really doesn't. Our gauge is a performance measure, not a knowledge member, right? So my challenge to you folks is, if you look at this slide, what do you build? When you design your learning and you design your solutions, do you do a lot of these? First and foremost, if not entirely, this is what you build for, or do you build a lot of these? Right? Because candidly, folks, these don't get you these. We'll talk about it in a moment, because these are really, and again, I'm not knocking them, but they are not the tools that get you this. So to shift to 70-20-20-10, first and foremost, we have to shift a mindset. The people who walk in your office and say these, has any of your clients ever walked into your office, the people who you serve, and said these words? I would like 5 days of blah training, like leadership training, or sales training, product training, SAP training, or fill-in training with e-learning, virtual instruction. Do people ever walk in your office and say these words to you? Do you ever have this conversation with those who you serve? Here's the challenge, friends. That request makes no sense. Literally, this request makes absolutely no sense. It's like I would never walk into a doctor and say, I would like 9 Advil because my arm hurts. I would never do that. I would never, ever walk into a doctor and say those words, because, you guys, I'm there because I have a symptom. Something's wrong with me, right? The doctor knows the prescription, right? But we're not in that trade, friends. People walk into our offices all the time and make these requests for a prescription ahead of analysis, right? And this gets us into trouble because it fights this very problem. We have taught, and frankly, I put a lot of this onus on us, candidly, because for many of us, for years, this is what we did, right? Remember the slide a couple before, the blue stuff, not the red stuff, the blue stuff. We created for that request training products. In the end, people know us, see our profession, L&D, as the training department, not the performance department, not the application department. We are known as learning and development, the training group, and we are seen as doing this, right? So rule number 1, if you want to get into the 70-20-10 business, you've got to get out of the training business, because this is an unfair measure of what we do. This is not enough, friends. It's part of the journey, but it is not enough, because in the end, this is how we're measured, right? We're not measured by mastery. We are measured by on-the-job competency. And check out that red death spiral of instruction there, right? Guys, this is what happens. And see the question mark. We are measured by competency. We're measured by time to count, not a 1 through 5 on your evaluations, not whether the room was comfortable, not if the instructor was entertaining, not if when I left your classroom I knew 10 more things that I knew before I got there. That is not our measure. Our measure is application. Transfer and sustain. See the green? Transfer and sustain. All right? So here's what's unfair, you guys. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but sometimes people come back into my office, 3-4 months later and go, Bob, here's the thing. People aren't performing in blah, blah, blah. They're not good leaders. They're not good salespeople. They're not selling product. They're not using SAP correctly. So therefore, your training must have been bad. Well, guys, here's the problem. The training was great. Those two are not synonymous. Training doesn't beget competency. Training begets mastery. It really does. The only fair measure of training is mastery. Because that's what it does. You want to get into transfer and sustain, you want to get into 70-20-10, look at the numbers, you guys. This is where 70-20-10 lines up to a learner's journey. I love this slide because 70-20-10 sound like great buckets, but we have to start changing them into a design framework. We have to start aligning them with where we can have impact when 70-20-10 occurs, right? Because I can design for a time. I can design for an occurrence. I can't design for a bucket of something. Right? So guys, here's the alignment, 70-20-10. And I don't know, and I'll be honest, guys, in my first 20 years of my profession, I made 10 stuff. And I hoped that the transfer and sustain happened. I hoped. I did not play there. I was not intentional there. I didn't have tools there. Wonderful ones like M-Level, to be honest. It's a phenomenal, I think, 70-20 kind of tool as far as what it can impact. But you guys, these tools were not around in my toolkit 10 years ago. So I made great training. Well, here's the thing, you guys. Performance support gets you this. Check out this slide, you guys. I'm going to go back a minute. Performance support added to the mix. And by the way, that's what the discipline is called. Performance support, and we're going to go a lot deeper in this, gets you 70 and 20 impact in its ability to enhance and enable training. And look what happens to the slide, guys. Look at this. When performance support is applied in complement to training, notice what I said, in complement to training, not replacing training, but in complement to training, some powerful things happen. See this? Right? Give me in chat what you saw happen in those slides. Give me one thing you saw change, friends, from this slide to that slide. Give me one thing you saw change in chat. Training became mastery, yes. And what else? Sustainable was successful, right? It became applied muscle memory. Big sustain. Yeah, guys, right. Because guys, to oversimplify the chart, what you're doing now is you're providing, like training head classrooms, e-learning, and other things, you are now going to provide tools like M-Level and others that support training, but in the end are brilliant transfer and sustain tools. We have these things now. They are in our toolkit. I didn't have them 10 years ago, but I have them now. And so guess what, you guys? I don't focus on training anymore. I don't target training anymore. I don't build training first anymore. I build transfer and sustain stuff first, and then I supplement with training. Hear that? I used to build training first, and if I had time, I made job aids. See the difference? I used to build training first, 5 days of blah, 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 e-learning, whatever. And if I had time, I sent home a good book, a good job aid. You feel right? But guys, that's very different. Now I design and build, because of the wonderful tools at our disposal and the methodologies, for transfer and sustain first. And then I backfill with whatever training is appropriate. Now, how do we do that? We have to get into design, friends. So first off, you have to understand the 5 moments of need, because we're going to design for this in a minute. The 5 moments of need changed 70-20-10 for me. It gave me a construct with which to design 70-20-10. Because I couldn't design to buckets, you guys. I can design to a learner's need. And the first two we know well, right? When people learn for the first time and when people learn more, you've got this one covered, friends. I guarantee you've got this one covered. Because it's called formal learning. You meet moments 1 and 2 with formal instruction. Here's the problem. In 70-20-10, guess what? 1 and 2 is the 10. Moments 1 and 2 are the 10. They're served by the 10. The learner lives in 3 through 5, trying to apply, remember, trying to get out of trouble, or trying to keep up with change. Look to the right. Form and support and the tools that enable it meet moments 3 through 5. So guess what? I know, that's why I said earlier, guys, I'm not in the training business anymore. I'm not in the formal training business anymore. I am in the sustained transfer performance support business, and I still do training when and where I need to. But candidly, you guys, this may ruffle some feathers. It is my last resort. I do training, get mad at me, as a last resort, because the longer I can live in 3 through 5, which is the world of apply, the better my learners do. Transfer and sustain. So here's the 5 moments, right? These are great linearly, but life doesn't happen linearly in a line, right? Here's the 5 moments in the real world of learning. Every day a learner comes into your company to apply, every single day, whether they're a new hire or the CEO. Every day they're trying to apply. In the context of apply, there are nuances to that, like, look, new and more. Those are nuances to trying to apply. Change and solve. See the 5 moments? So guess what, friends? Here's the 70-20-10. But what I love about this slide is, guys, I can design deliverables for new, more, change, solve, and apply. I couldn't design deliverables for 70-something, like when people are on their own. Make sense? But I can design deliverables to a new, more framework, a change, solve, and apply framework. And you will meet the 70-20-10 deliverable. Now, quick question in chat. Where are you now? Be honest, folks. If you look at what you do now, the things that you build, are you mostly 1 and 2, big micro-learning stuff? Or are you 2? Or are you 3? Give me a number. Give me a 1, 2, or 3. In your work right now, are you mostly designing for 1? Actually, look, excellent. Heidi, brilliant. A lot of 2s, so people are in the middle. A lot of people are moving. Yep, getting to 3, but slow. It's okay. Bunch of 1s, some 3 to 5. You guys, and here what I want to, guys, I'm not asking you this number to accuse by any means. Here's what I'm doing. I think it's important, friends, for us to understand where our weak spots are, right? Because a lot of people, we have to understand what we're getting from our deliverables. And that's where the 5 moments was very freeing for me, because it gave me a construct with which to look at what I made and identify the need it was meeting, not whether it taught people stuff, not whether they were compliant, not whether they could pass a test, not whether they could sign off on completion. These are all metrics, by the way, of moments 1 and 2. And by the way, they're very fair metrics of moments 1 and 2. I wanted to be in the 3 through 5 business. That makes sense? I wanted to be in the apply business. But the first thing I had to do was I had to honestly look at what I made and align it not to tools, not to how many deliverables I had, not to how many courses are on my LMS. None of that. I had to look through the lens of what needs were I meeting and what needs was I not yet meeting, so I could shift my deliverables. And also, by the way, I could teach those who I serve why I was making the change. Friends, by all means, use the 5 moments of need all you want. I will send you these slides. Show them to your learners. These are not slides just for us. These are great slides to have some powerful conversations with the people that walk in your office and say, I want 5 days of leadership training. And you're going to get that, folks. You're going to get people going to say, why are we changing this? I think I like classes. Guys, they may like classes, but what they're not liking is the outcome. Right? They want classes because that's all they know. Or they've seen classes. They know they can go back and say, well, 20 of my employees went through training and they got a 90%, or they passed the compliance test, or guys, whatever. I get the measurability, but that's not what they really want. What they want is transfer and sustain. And yes, training is part of the journey. So let's get into this very thing. You design for the 70 first. You design for apply first. We're going to change this for you, friends. So I want to come at you from an apply perspective. I'm going to try to shift your thinking in design to more of an apply mentality, because that's what anyone who does this successfully needs to do. I had to. And by the way, friends, just to be honest, this is my 9th year in this discipline, but it's been a 9-year journey, and I try to get better at it all the time. But I'll be the first to say I'm not perfect at it yet. But 9 years ago, I was a 1 and 2 guy. I designed new and more stuff, and I hoped that they could apply. I really did. And I'm not saying that they couldn't, but what I will say is I didn't help them intentionally with that. So, performance support, here's the definition. And I'm not going to read it to you. You can see, but it's pretty long and lengthy. But where I'm going with you guys is performance support is not a job aid. That's the tool. It's like carpentry is not a hammer. Right? Carpentry is not a hammer. Carpentry is a discipline. A hammer is a tool. Right? So this is the discipline of performance support. It's a great definition. I didn't write it. It's one I use when I'm talking to my deliverables and talking to my clients and talking to those who I'm working with. Right? So that's the discipline. Here is the tool. Here's the hammer. When I design for performance support, I make what are called EPSSs, or embedded performance support systems. They used to be called electronic performance support systems, but they don't have to be e-based, candidly. They can be paper-based. They can be people-based. How's that? In an embedded performance support system, part of the orchestration could be a person, a coach, a mentor. Really. That's why we've drifted away from the E for electric, because that put us in a box of robo-help and other things you may know from the old days. Right? An orchestrated set of services. Look at that provides. So here I want you to do in chat. Give me what words jump out at you in this definition. What words do you find powerful? Would you give me that in chat? And yes, Dave, the slides will be available after, my friend, as is the recording. Look at you, Heidi. Orchestrated. Love that. And by the way, Heidi, how are you, my friend? It's good to see you on here. High performance, on demand, orchestrated, guidance, on demand, and integrated. High level. Look at you. On demand. Lots of on demand. Guys, look at this definition came from Gloria Aguirre, 1991. Some of you on this call may not have been born in 1991. But I love the definition. Haven't changed it since. But listen, guys, look at the words you're listing over here. On demand, enable. Minimal support means autonomy. Guys, that is not moments 1 and 2 stuff. That's not training, right? That's a whole different world. But when you start building for 70 and 20, when you start building performance support, people are going to, like you can describe the classroom today, people are going to want you to describe what this thing is. What are you going to build for me? And here's what's exciting about this slide. I have never put this slide before a consumer, someone buying training or who didn't think it was phenomenal, who was like, okay, if you can build that, I want 1,000 of those. Right? But there's some powerful words in here, and you nailed it. Look at the words. These are ones that jump out to me. Excellent, Richard. Love it. Orchestrated and on demand. Those are two, guys, those are not instructor-led training. In fact, although training is orchestrated, I get that. But orchestrated on demand is a very different deliverable than ILT or e-learning through a LMS. Very, very different deliverable, right? So what I want to pivot on for today, for our last half hour together, is this word orchestrated, because orchestrated to me means design. It's my favorite word in the paragraph, because I'm an ID. I'm an instructional designer. I orchestrate things. I orchestrate the classroom. I orchestrate e-learning. I orchestrate a webinar. I orchestrate, right? We're in the orchestration design business. And what I love about this definition, what it tells me is, friends, I can design intentionally for the 70 and the 20 by building EPSSs, by building performance support. But we have to go deeper. We have to peel the onion back. What does orchestrated mean? So let's talk about the workflow. Let's start there. There are 5 powerful design approaches that you need to understand to design 70-20-10 stuff. Now, today, friends, I'm only going to do 3 of these quickly. I'm not going to teach you them. I'm going to show you them. This is an hour webinar, not instruction or a workshop. That's a discussion for another time. We have a whole 3-month online workshop on doing this for designers. So I got an hour here, right? So I just want you to walk away comfortable with 3 really important concepts of what's called an RWA, or rapid workflow analysis, critical skills analysis, and learning. These are the pivot, friends, that make designing 70-20-10 happen. Audience analysis you may have done before. Some type of performance plan you may have done before, 2 and 5. But 1, 3, and 4 are really big. So, workflow. How many of you remember starting a class with this? Okay, let's start by going over the outline of the course and our time together over the next 5 days. Have you ever uttered those words? Have you ever had your trainers utter those words? Look at Heidi. Yeah. Can I be very candid with you folks? Don't do it. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. 2 problems with that. Number 1, the learners never remember it. They don't remember it 20 minutes after you're done. And boring, Heidi, in some cases overwhelming. I get why we're doing it, because we want to bring structure to the day. I get, you guys, I get that. But here's my point. You're showing them the wrong structure. Has always been the problem. Look at my slide here for just a second. See the red and the black boxes, left and right? Guys, these are an outline for the exact same course. What's the difference between the one on the left and the one on the right? The one on the left, by the way, was the outline of the course before we 70-20-10'd it. Before we did an RWA, the things I'm going to show you today. The course was on the left. How's the thing on the right different? Can anyone give me in chat how the thing on the right is different than the thing on the left? Heidi, action, vocab. Yeah, Laura, what do you mean by vocabulary? What do you mean it's different? How's the vocabulary different? And Heidi, you're spot on. How is it? By the way, again, this is the exact same. Dave, brilliant. It's personalized. Focus on performance. Action-oriented. You guys take those 3 together. What they mean is, guys, the thing on the right is the workflow. It's personalized. It's performance-focused. The vocabulary are verbs. The thing on the left is what Addie gets you. Whoops. Hey guys, I just lost my slides. So it's going to hopefully come back in here in a second.
I can also navigate for you.
Are you still here?
I'm glad to be here. We're all here.
Yeah, sorry. Guys, I'm so sorry. Okay, good. And so,
just let me know where
stay with me, my friend. Okay, hopefully I come back on here again in a second. That is bizarre. It appears has been disconnected from. Am I still in the meeting, friends? It says it appears I've been disconnected from the meeting.
You're
there?
Still here, so if you just need me to click. Yeah, we're all here. We can all hear you.
Okay. Okay, friends. Sorry. Hopefully I'll get back on here in just a minute. Would you please? So, do you go to a person with a in the middle there?
Yep, with ENCODE and RETRIEVE in their head. We're here.
Perfect.
So, we got the picture of the person's head.
Perfect. So, what this is going to show you, friends, let me make sure I'm on my deck, you guys, so I can come along with you here. So, yeah, what this shows you guys is that the thing on the left, we have to understand something called encoding. What encoding means, you guys, is this is why the outline is really not the thing you want to pivot on, because the outline, friends, that we get with Addie is not the workflow. It's the way we want to teach them. Teaching is not workflow stuff. So they encode, you guys, from our outline, which is the left side, the red. They get the thing but they go back to the thing on the right, the workflow, and they can't transfer. This is the breakdown between training and performance. So, Jordan, if you click with me again, it should give you 2 black outlines, right? Fundamentally, friends, you want to start with the workflow. You want to understand how you can design for and work from the workflow, right? So, Jordan, if you click again, what you need to get comfortable with, friends, is something called rapid workflow analysis. You need to not design towards content. You need to design to context, right? So in context, you want to basically design for 3 things. You want to start by identifying the job tasks. From there, you want to group them into workflow processes. And from there, you want to align them to what is called supporting knowledge. These are the three cornerstones of a workflow analysis. Notice I'm not worried about steps. I'm not worried about sequencing yet, right? That will come later. I'm not even worried about whether I'm going to have PowerPoints or whether I'm going to have that. Guys, that comes later. We have to pivot first on understanding and analyzing the workflow. So, are you still with me there, Jordan?
Yes, Bob, we're still with you.
Are you guys? Thanks.
Yep,
sorry about that.
We're still here.
No
so
idea
I'll click ahead. I got.
Yes. So I want to show you what this looks like, friend, in an example. So what the slides in front of you now shows you the first step, which is based on the scope objective you see at the top of that square there. You want to then list the tasks. You just have your SMEs just list off all the things they do in their job. Not what they need to know, but what they do. And you see the beginning of a list there. That list actually went out as far as 30, 40, some odd tasks in this particular case. Right? If you click again for me, what you do then is once you've got all the tasks, then you group them into what are called business processes or workflows. We're trying to build that workflow example. And then from there, if you click again, you add what's called supporting knowledge to that. So we're going to pick on that bottom area, the red square, and if you should be looking at a slide that says identify supporting knowledge. Once you have the task, then you link to them all the things that people need to know to do. Make sense? You want to be sure when you're done with this, you guys, that you come up with a workflow business process of all the things people need to do and then the things they need to know to do them. But you want to group them in chunks that are business process oriented and in what's called a workflow. That's how you get away from the outlines of the ADDIE days of designing to train. You want to design to performance, and performance is doing, and that's where rapid workflow analysis will help you. Now, if you click again to slide 42 there, guys, it's not all critical. Here's another important thing. So if I've got my workflow and I understand how things are done on the job, but now I have to design the 70-20-10 blend, don't I? Now I have to design for performance support, or I have to design for training. I have to figure out that blend or that balance. Guys, this next thing I'm going to show you is probably one of the most powerful things that I've ever been taught in my 30-plus years of being an ID. Right? Workflow analysis was a big pivot for me, the one we just talked about. But this next thing was, frankly, professionally life-changing for me. Because even with workflow analysis, RWA, I still wasn't quite pivoting on how do I blend the 70-20-10. I understand what the 70 is like now because I've done rapid workflow analysis, but I don't know the criticality. So, my friend, if you could click again, are you looking at a series of books? Slide 43.
Yes, we're all looking at books.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So here's a quick story. My colleague, Dr. Gonrad Gottfriedson, was in Trafalgar Square. That's the monument there on the left. And he found these books in a bookstore. There were 16 of them. He bought all 16 books. Because he was amazed. He's a PhD in instructional design. He was amazed that someone had discovered how to do books on these amazing topics. So if you click again, he always wanted to do scuba diving.
Hold on one second, Bob. For some reason, the presentation went down. Hold on one second there. I'll be right back online. Just keep talking. I'm going to get the slides back up for you in a second.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, guys. I don't know what's... So I'll continue telling the story, guys. So he wanted to figure out a way, or he was reading these books, and he wanted to scuba dive. So he decided, if these books can teach me, I got a 10-hour flight back to the States, I'll just start reading about scuba diving. And when I land, I can be a scuba diver, which obviously, guys, that was not the case. So while he was reading the book, he came upon this word barotrauma, B-A-R-U-T-R-A-T-A-U-M, trauma, T-R-A-U-M, barotrauma. And what when he saw that word, he was like, okay, look, something's bad about this word. And the more he looked it up, what he found out as he got deeper into the understanding was that barotrauma basically meant burst lungs. That if you did barotrauma while you were scuba diving, if you didn't understand what that was, if you didn't perform it right, basically you died, right? And you guys, Khan had this epiphany, right? What he learned was, maybe I don't want to learn how to scuba dive in a book or in a class or in a weekend, right? Maybe there's something more important to this whole instructional thing besides the orchestration of content in a book, right? So this was the beginning, folks, of what we now call critical skills analysis. And what Khan realized is not all job tasks are created equal. Some are more critical than others. So are we up and running on that end, friends?
Yep, we're back.
Or are we still?
All good.
Okay.
Yep, we're all good.
And are you on the which side are you on there, friend?
I was on 45. Should I be on? I was on 45.
Yeah, go out to 47, please. So past the scuba diving
Bravo.
to the CSA rubric.
Got it.
Okay. So you guys, take a look at this screen. What Khan realized was we need a way to look at what we do every day and blend it differently than we have. Up until now, guys, a lot of us, I don't know about you, but I was blending based on modality, based on time. So blended to me, before I understood this, meant you took your class and you divided it up. So some things were done in e-learning, some things were done in class, right? And I guess maybe you've heard of flipped learning. You ever heard of flipped learning? Right, where we have people do some things before instruction, some things after. But you guys, that's not pivoting on performance. That's pivoting on content. And what we learned in 70-20-10 is we want to move as much into the workflow as we can, right? As much into the 70 with an EPSS, with performance support. But we have to have a way to decide what goes where. So the rubric on your screen, if you look at the boxes, see the one on the far left? If you take a look at what's in those boxes. And then if you kind of read across to what it says in 7, right? Hopefully you see a huge difference between 1 and 7. Right? 1 is, frankly, inconsequential. If I failed at a 1, frankly, not a whole lot happens. But if I fail at a 7,
and really bad stuff happens.
Oh, I'm actually back online, guys. It just magically appeared, so I think I can drive. Let me see how this goes. So here's the thing, watch what happens. When you know the 1 through 7 stuff, anything that you go back and you look at your tasks, go back and you look at your supporting knowledge, and you rank them on this rubric, every one of them. This is after you've created your workflow, you know what people do, you know what they need to know, you take those two things and you rank them, everything. The outline you saw a moment ago on a 1 to 7, and you have your SMEs help you do this. And here's the moral of the story, folks. Here's the blend. If it's a 1 through 4 task or a 1 through 4 supporting knowledge, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it in my performance support alone. I'm not going to teach it. Think about that. I'm going to show you the results in a minute when you do this. I'm not, because remember, folks, the goal is not to teach everything. The goal is to have people be able to apply everything. Now, if it's a 5 through 7, then I'm going to teach it. If the task or the supporting knowledge is a 5 through 7, I'm going to give it class time. This is, like I said earlier, guys, I designed first for performance support for 70, but I still have classroom stuff. I still do instruction. But what I do now is, guys, I pivot on criticality, not on sequence or those kinds of things, right? But notice, see the green? Everything's in the EPSS and in microlearning. Everything is in those tools. But what I have to decide is, what am I also going to teach? This is how you shrink the red. Remember the red shrinking earlier, the orange shrinking earlier in the train, transfer, sustain? So let me show you an example, friends. Watch this. This is an outline that was done in RWA. See the black? Can you see the black bars? The black bars are the workflow process. This is for a sales training course. Sell to a customer, complete the customer sale. The things that are numbered are the tasks. The parts in the gold are the supporting knowledge, the things people have to know to perform the tasks above them. Let me say it again. The black boxes, my friends, are the workflow. Sell to a customer, complete the customer, get all those, right? So the black things are the workflow. The numbered are the tasks that make up that workflow, and the gold part are the things I need to know and understand to perform. Right? Watch what happens when we apply critical skills to this. That's without, and this is after critical skills. Look at that, you guys. Look at that. This would have been probably a 3 to 4 day, 5-day sales training course. Classic. Even though it's in workflow, if I lead with training, if I lead with red, it probably still would have been 3, 5, 6 days of training. Look what I get after critical skills. A third. It's all important. This isn't about importance. This is about failure and criticality. If someone can't perform it, if someone doesn't understand it, and they fail at it, like scuba diving, do they die a 7, or do they recover a 1? You guys, ones are, they brush themselves off, they pick themselves up, they learn through experience, and they proceed on and perform. Here's the goal, you guys. I want to make my solutions as experiential in learning as I can, and nothing beats the workflow for experience. But I'm not going to throw people in the deep end without a life preserver. So this is my new outline for my course. This entire thing is in my EPSS. This entire thing is in my EPSS. But when I instruct, I only teach the things you see on your screen right now. This is where the reduction of training by half or more comes from. And guess what? While we're doing this, I help my learners understand how to use the EPSS in class. We do experiential learning. We do practices. We crash and burn. It dynamically changes the nature of the class. Could I repeat which parts are which again? The black. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me say them again, guys. The black, in fact, let me go back an outline for you, Jan. The black are the workflows, the process groups. So sell to a customer is a process group that the salespeople have to do. Then they complete the customer sale, and the steps below. See the numbers? Then they might resolve a customer issue, and there's the steps 12 to do it. So the black bars are the process workflow groups. The numbered things below them are the tasks you need to perform to do those groups. The gold, or in this case, the yellow, if I go to this next slide, are the concepts, the things you have to know to perform. They are not doing. The things below the yellow, friends, are not doing. They are knowing. You have to know the things. Now, look at complete the customer sale. There are no concepts to be taught in class. None. See, look at the context session is empty. But I am going to teach activate the device, and you see the idea. 2 and 7 and 8 there. But again, friends, it's all in my EPSS. It's all in my workflow learning tool. But this is about instruction versus not. So let's wrap up our day here with the last thing about access. So if I'm going to throw people into the workflow first, if I'm going to design for the workflow first, if I'm going to take all those things off my outline from the slide before and take them out of class, I better have things in the workflow that help them perform, help them learn, help them solve. You saw the 5 moments earlier, right? Apply, solve, change. It's an orchestration. Remember the word orchestration? EPSSs have a unique orchestration for them to work in the workflow. I'm going to say that again. EPSSs have a designed orchestration for them to work in the workflow. If you don't orchestrate them, they are confusing, frustrating, and bad. Boy, please take this right. But anyone out there know SharePoint at all? You ever use SharePoint? Now, let me say it in one sentence. I am not I'm not knocking look at Dave, unfortunately. Guys, I'm not knocking SharePoint, really. I think SharePoint is a remarkably powerful tool. But can I also say in the same breath, I think it's really badly designed by most people. And by the way, that's not SharePoint's fault. That is not SharePoint's fault. It's whoever built its fault. It's the designer's fault. Right? Right? Yeah, it works. Look at Sherry. It works if it's set up properly. Agreed? Right? So here's the thing. If you want your EPSS and to design for 70-20-10, you have to not just orchestrate the class, you have to orchestrate the workflow. You have to help them with an EPSS that works in a way that they can navigate, have access to, not this slide. Look at this poor slide. Look at this slide. Guys, this is not a strategy. Giving them all these bullets is not a strategy. One of the first things we do when we go into companies to help them with this is we do what we call a learning asset analysis. We try to figure out what is in the workflow now. We don't judge it. We don't evaluate it. We don't try to design it. We just want to know what's out there. And this is our running list. This is our current running list of things we see in the workflow when we work with organizations that are trying to do this. See, but guys, here's the problem. This is chaos. This is not a strategy. Workflow learning is all about orchestration and accessibility. Make sense? Orchestration and accessibility. So let's end with this in our last couple of minutes here. Let's talk about orchestration. And let's go back to the 5 moments because we've got to orchestrate all 5, right? If we're going to design for 70-20-10, we still have to design for the 10. And we have to design now, for many of us, this will be new, for the 20 and the 70. So let's start with what we know. Guys, in chat, finish the sentence for me, would you please? In this lesson, what follows that? Who knows what follows those words all the time in our work? In this lesson, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, look. Okay, Laura, good. We will see. Anything else? In this lesson, you will learn. We have learned. Look at you guys. You're brilliant. You will learn. You guys, that's called a learning objective. Right? Look at the top of this pyramid. When you're teaching, we were all taught. In this lesson, you will learn, and then 4 or 5 bullets, right? 6 bullets. Probably no more than that or you're overwhelming them. Then you go down to concepts. Why are you doing this? Then deeper details, then steps. This make sense? This is the pyramid of instruction, of training. You test at the end and repeat. We've been doing this for hundreds of years. Here's the problem. When you get to moments 3 through 5, when someone is in the workflow, when they're not in instruction, though, that pyramid is very hard. It doesn't work anymore. If I'm trying to solve a problem, if I'm trying to keep up with change, if I'm trying to apply, I do not want to read in this lesson you will learn. This is why e-learning for years, friends, has not been just in time. Remember calling it just in time, JIT? Those of you who've been around long enough? We can, as a dear friend of mine says, we confuse accessibility with relevance. Just because we can get into the LMS doesn't mean what I find behind my password helps me or is helpful. E-learning, no offense to e-learning, I think it's unfair to e-learning to call it just in time unless you're only talking about I can get to it quickly. But you guys, getting to something quickly doesn't mean it's helpful. We're trying to orchestrate things that are helpful, right? This is the pyramid of performance support. In performance support, friends, we invert the pyramid. Because the person's in the workflow, they have context, they're staring at the problem, they're trying to keep up, they're trying to apply. They don't need in this lesson you will learn. In this lesson you will learn was an anticipatory set that we gave to learners so they understood why you were about to do what you were about to do. If I'm in the workflow, friends, I don't need that because I am in the workflow. I know what I'm facing the problem. I can't serve a customer. I can't make a sale. I can't make Excel work. I can't do a performance appraisal. I get it. I get it. What I don't know is how to do it, why to do it. Notice the pyramid. Here's a close-up of the pyramid. The pyramid for performance support is designed opposite of training. It's a flipped, if I dare say that word, design model. Not a flipped classroom. It's a flipped design model. If you're going to design for transfer and sustain, the first thing you start with is context the workflow. We talked about that in RWA, right? And then you lead with tasks. Now, you guys, we use the flipped pyramid for two reasons. It's a metaphor, meaning, see the arrow on the left, the green arrow on the left? What that means is as the learner works deeper in the pyramid, they're given more and harder and longer stuff. But by the way, that's okay, because they need longer, better, deeper, harder stuff, because the top layers didn't help. Is that making sense? When people go into an EPSS, the first thing you give them is just task-based, quick stuff, and then supporting knowledge if they can't understand. If those don't work, look what else we give them. But only when those don't work. We then give them reference material, learning, and others, right? We take them deeper into the way in which we can support folks at a new level. So it inverts the pyramid, friends, of going from, in this lesson you will learn, to specific. In performance support, when you're designing for 3 through 5, you start with the very specific and you drill down to the broad. Now, guys, obviously there's tons more under these slides, other things we could show you, but for today, I wanted you to be comfortable with the 3 different areas and to understand the architecture in the 5 moments. To go deeper is another time, another hour. So, friends, here's one of my favorite quotes. I'll leave you with this. We're coming to the top of the hour. A ship in a harbor is safe, but guess what? That's not what ships were built for, right? The classroom has been safe. It's supposed to be. E-learning, safe, supposed to be. This webinar, safe. That's what moments 1 and 2 stuff's about. Here's the problem. 70-20-10, what those numbers have always implied, that the majority of the time, friends, 70 and 20, our learners are not safe in the harbor. They're in the workflow. They're out at sea. My challenge to you, friends, is how are you going to go there with them? What tools, what techniques, what methodology are you going to follow to build for the 70 and 20, not just for the 10? And for years, I know for 20 years of my life, you guys, I only built for the 10, and I hoped that it had an impact on the 70-20. Now, friends, what I'm so excited about with the tools that are available, with things like M-Level, I can now intentionally orchestrate for the 70 and 20 first, and then fall back on the others. So, friends, here's my email. Bob at Applied Synergies. Please, we hope you join the community. Chris at 5momentsofneed.com. Sorry about the technical hiccup. Jordan, you're the man. Thank you so much for clicking for me. I hope it worked.
No problem. It did work great, Bob. Thank you so much for today. It was very, I think everyone here really enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed, going through it, and I've never seen a person cover 63 slides and keep me engaged so much. So that was quite an impressive task on itself. Tremendous content for a guy with advanced ADD. He did a great job. So thank you so much. You can see it from all the people and coming in, clapping. Thank you, Bob, for a great webinar. You guys will all get a copy of this via email probably tomorrow with a full recording of it. And please feel free to follow with Bob directly. As you saw in the chat feed, our next session will be an impromptu for us. We're actually going to have one of our customer advocates spend an hour with you guys teaching on how to use the product to build a micro-learning training embedded with gamification in just under an hour. So hopefully you guys can make that as well. So thank you, Bob. Thank you, everybody. I know it's at the top of the hour. Appreciate you guys dedicating time to M-Level, and we'll see you in a month. Have a great day.
Thanks, folks. Take care. Thank you.